Hello and welcome to Living with Intention Live. I am your host, April Wyatt. For those who do not know me, I'm a somatic performance coach and I'm all about our energy and our bodies. And this is why I'm very excited for this conversation today, because we're going to be talking about what is running you. And even think about that a little bit. What is running you, right? Those inner dynamics that really shape us and our business. And what I've become really curious, I love bringing curiosity into the picture, is through my own work, what happens in the body while we're building it, right? Shaping our business, building relationships, because there's a big difference between feeling energized by what you're creating and also feeling like you have to hold everything together and you have to force or push things to happen. And there's a difference really in the investment of your work, of having your nervous system, right, constantly bracing, and what's needing your attention next. And sometimes we're so focused on where we're taking the business that we don't even notice how we are taking ourselves there, and really the impact that we have on others and also our personal and professional lives. And so that's where today's question gets really interesting, right? What's running you while you're running everything else? And I want you to think about that, because all of that comes into and through us into our business. So if you're leading a team, if you are a business manager, if you are even someone who is, uh, a caregiver for someone else, right? You have to schedule, you have to manage, you have to lead with that. And we need to remember that whatever we're leading with in our bodies and our minds, that also enters the room with you too, because our bodies are always in the conversation. It's always been there for us. So I want you to think about that, right? And how important it is to recognize that sometimes if we're running and keeping and going, we don't have the space to acknowledge what's really running us. And this is why I created the Pause to Rise Bali retreat, because this is a space for people to come together and to create space through different experiences, such as Osho meditation. That's a movement meditation with breath and music. It's the biodynamic breath work that I am certified in. And that really allows us to access our nervous system and be aware of what's happening in real time. So that way we can recalibrate our system. And not only just the breath work and energy experiences, but we're also giving space in the middle of the day, 3 hour space. So that way you can go for a walk on the beach, which is right there on the northern shore of Bali. You can lie by the pool. You can take a nap. How many times, I'm going to raise my hand to this, you've said to yourself, today, I wish I could just take a nap. Well, there you go. We're creating that space for you. So that way you can pause and rise above the noise. So if you are curious about that, please reach out to me. You can also access the information through my website, livingwithintention.co/Bali. and I would love to share more information. It is October 10th through the 17th, and we just have a few spots left, and there's still time to make those travel arrangements. So that's also about community too. I'm all about building community wherever I go because that really supports our nervous system. If we feel safe and supported, then we're going to open up and we're going to learn about each other and learn about ourselves in the process. And part of community I'm also part of is the Hounds of Business. And this gentleman is Mike Asherbranner. He's the founder of the Hounds of Business community. And so if you are a high level professional that's been looking for a community of reciprocity, of sees the value of you and leans in and listens, that's what I do when I meet anyone through the Hounds of Business, then I'm more apt to say, hey, I want you to meet Mike Asherbranner or Carly or LaSara, who's on the show today. I love to give warm introductions. And that's what matters. It's not a cold lead. It's not a, well, I know this person. Here you go. Here's their link. No, it is more of, I know this person and I absolutely believe that you'll gel well together. So if you're curious about that, scan that QR code or reach out to me about the Hounds of Business. I'd love to share more information. Also, community for me is through stories and learning about other people. So these beautiful ladies, Jennifer and Yarita with I Am Magazine, they're actual sisters, and they created this magazine to shine the light on other people and their stories because we really do learn more about ourselves and others by reading their stories. These are real people that have come, um, they've really expanded and have expanded across the adversities in their life. That's what I'm trying to say. And for example, this gentleman here in the middle, that's Curtis Rivers. And he is a stunt man, but he's shifted into a spiritual practice leader, and he's an amazing person in the UK. I wouldn't have met him if it wasn't for the Hounds of Business. And so they also have a um, Spanish version of their magazine, and it's an international magazine as well. And they are also working on an amazing anthology that's coming out here towards the end of the month, and I can't wait to see that. So if you're curious about I Am Magazine, it's free to subscribe. You just scan that QR code or reach out to Jennifer or Yarita through iammagazine.com, and they would love to connect with you. So, speaking of connections, I'm going to bring up these two amazing ladies that I've invited here today. We have Dr. Carly and LaSara. LaSara, there you are, my dear. I was worried that I couldn't see you backstage. So, here you are. You're both showing up and shining for this conversation today. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be here with me.
Thanks for inviting us on. That first conversation when we met, there were fireworks. I was literally pulsing with just excitement and feeling so much resonance with what you are here for. So thank you for inviting me and us.
Oh, you're most welcome, Carly. Yes. And LaSara, welcome in too.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Carly, because for connecting us as well, because Carly is the reason I am here. It is a joy to talk. Like, let's, I don't know, I'm excited. I'm like, let's go.
Let's get into it. Before we even talk about who you are and what you do, you know, this conversation is so needed right now for people to understand really what's running them in their business. If they're an entrepreneur, if they're a, you know, team leader, how are they really putting in the effort to recognize, you know, that inner dialogue that what maybe there's a little disconnect there, and they've been trying to figure out, well, I've been ticking off the boxes. I've been following this program to connect with my team, to connect with others, yet something still is falling short. Dr. Carly, do you mind sharing your insights a little bit about how to approach that? What might be happening for those people, and then share a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, that question of what is running you, it was about a decade ago when I first started to do transformational leadership, be guided in a program. And I was a postdoctoral researcher who was part of a core team who had just launched a renewable energy startup. And when I started to learn how to connect with my body, because I hadn't been, I was like this floating brain that was a high achiever and definitely like checking the boxes. And there was a lot of disconnect in terms of my heart's fulfillment. And there was a moment as I started to come down into my earth right here when I realized how much anxiety I had. And I started to notice these like patterns of, oh, my heart is racing, my cheeks are red, and just these different moments where I didn't realize that I wasn't accessing choice, but I was in a full fear response. And I had never even known that that had been happening like my whole life in different situations. And so I had a whole life meltdown and recreation over the last decade to really access more of my full intelligence, which is my mind in connection with my body and all of the great information that has allowed me to build a business and to be deeply aligned with why I'm here and feel so much more fulfillment in this, in building Enliven Leadership, which I'm the founder of, and I work with organizations to become coherent and to shift from force to flow and purpose-driven leaders in this journey where we get to exist inside of our business and actually experience more fulfillment and experience more of, you could say, this flow and this great bounty of opportunities and connections that lead to things that you didn't see coming. But if your head is down and you're trying to focus on the plan and things don't go well and your whole body contracts, one of my clients, when I met her, the second I said, oh, I work with purpose-driven leaders to shift from force to flow. And she said, we just lost our biggest donor, like $1 million donor to my organization. And she has this incredible social justice organization. And it was immediately this possibility that something else was actually opening up. But that she got to shift when moments like that happened, from it impacting her for a whole week of being dark and dreary into, we go out to the woods, perhaps we go to the ocean, or we just sit in the meditation mat, or whatever it is for you. You go on the run, process it, and then become empty and available for the next opportunity and realize everything can happen for us. So that's the shift from force to flow I guide leaders through.
Oh, I so appreciate you bringing that forward. It's really important. And you said something that's the key, is the choice, right? The choice that we have, and knowing and understanding. But it takes something special, doesn't it, Lysara, to be able to access that choice? Yeah. I'm going to bring you over here, Lysara. There we go.
I'm trying to figure out if it was breaking up on my end, so I didn't hear what you shared.
Yes. So Carly was sharing about from the force to flow.
Yeah.
And she mentioned about choice, having that choice of working with high performance leaders. And I think that also is a beautiful segue into your work, Lysara. So share with us about, how you help others understanding what's running them, and then what you do and how you support them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that first stood out was this concept of checking boxes. Just yesterday on my Facebook, I had a post. It's titled, it's like, "Are you living the checkbox life? Are you checking the boxes?" And this way of living that is, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what works. This is what makes me successful. This is what makes me a good leader. There are so many places where that conditioning, that programming, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm, I've got my metrics and I'm check, 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 check.
Mhm.
And the checkbox life is not the place where you get to be expressed as all of you, is not the place where your full leadership is actually accessible. And
Mhm.
so my work as a leadership mentor supports people to see the holistic experience. So the boxes that we check, the things that we do, does not account for all of us, all of our essence, all of our truth.
Mhm.
And this ability to acknowledge the importance of, obviously there are things we want to check off and say that we have done them, they are complete. And there is so much going on more deeply besides the doing. My work is supporting people from inner division to what I call irresistible authority. Now, I'm trained as a linguist, so I will break down the etymology of why I use this word irresistible. If you actually take each segment of that word from Latin, it directly translates to unable to stand against. And when I say inner division, a lot of people don't even recognize that there's any inner division happening. They're like, no, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm aligned toward this goal. I'm right here. I'm going for it. And this is how I lead. This is how I get done what I need to get done. But here's the thing. The way, generally speaking, the way that we have learned how to succeed, how to lead, how to, and what the world applauds is often subtly or not so subtly self-abandonment, where we focus on doing, we miss the being internally, we miss the part where we are fully accounted for, because the focus is what needs to get done, what needs to get done, what needs to get done, get it done, check it off, get it done, get it done, get it done. And that split between who and how we are being and what we are doing is the same place where authority is actually lost.
Mm.
It's where we are focused on just that doing and not accessing everything, whether it's the body, whether it's what is actually true for us. And this is very much my story. So in 2020, I had these viral videos. I was so active in the community, so supportive, thousands of people served across the world. And at the end of 2020, and everyone remembers 2020, okay, I don't have to go into detail about 2020.
Yes, I call it the global shift. It was the global shift.
Lots of shifts, lots of things shifting, yes. And it was at the end of that year, literally one December day, it was like there was finally a moment of quiet, like the neighborhood was quiet. My husband had just walked through wherever, and I was lying on the sofa, and it was this moment of stillness that I had I had a lot of, I had my meditation practice. I'm a sound healer. My sound healing practice, I do, I do all of these things that are so deeply connected to my own connection with myself. But something clicked in this moment while I was lying on the sofa. I realized that all of the impact, the thousands of people served, the 6-figure months, the ways that I was deeply creating such important impact in the community, in the entrepreneurial community, in the Black community, in people being empowered in their voices and their truth. I realized that entire thing had been a trauma response. all of the impact I was creating, all that, like what was driving me so powerfully in my leadership was also a trauma response, a prolonged trauma response, like a 6 to 8 month trauma response. And here's what I want to say about this, because when we are driven to a place where it feels like our back is against the wall, where we have to dig deep, where there's resilience, where we're essentially operating from survivalism, whether it's financial survivalism, whether it's psychological, mental survivalism, that energy, this energy is so powerful. This energy can drive us and take us so far. And it's limited. So when that survival is happening, and I'm sharing this so specifically because a lot of times people don't realize they're operating in survival. But I think about these motivational speakers, these guys who are like, you gotta want it as bad as you want to breathe. I'm like, that's survivalism, okay?
Right.
To do that, that will drive us. And there is a place where you can realize that's what's actually happening, like I did. And my story was that I was doing everything that was right by the lens of society, by the lens of the community, by the lens of everyone around me. But what was right was not true for me. And so my journey of recognizing, oh, what is actually true? What is my truth? What is the thing that is moving me? Not because it's what other people will applaud, not because it's what's going to get something from someone else, but because it's actually what my essence is asking to have come forward right now. And with this leadership body of work that I offer, it is understanding what is your actual truth, being able to come into that place instead of the seduction of being so impressive to any and everyone else. What is actually true? What is the essence? And then allowing that to guide how you lead. Because when you come from that place, that is when you lead in the way that only you can. That is when leadership is so authentically you and so generating, generating.
Yes. And it's limitless when we were in that space.
Yes.
What I love, Lasara, is that you shared that you were sitting on the couch, it was calm, and then in your mind, you ran back all the things. And then it was like, that was a trauma response.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as Dr. Shane, hello, Dr. Shane, I'm so happy to have you here and everyone else that's been chiming in. He's saying that he can relate. He says that my drive and going to the C-suite at 30, the top of my class at the university, were trauma responses, right? And he did that for approval for his father,
Yes.
which I never got. And I can raise my hand to that. The same thing happened with my own father, and just wanting to appease, wanting just the love. That's all we're wanting. That's what it boils down to. We want to be accepted and loved. But in reality, it's us. And I'm going to bring it back to the choice, Dr. Carly, for us to choose us over the doing and the ticking of the boxes, as Lasara so perfectly described. Yeah. Yes, Carly, I know you have some wisdom to share with us. What we just went over that with Lasara. Thank you, Lasara, also for sharing that insight. I know you have a lot to share, and this needs to be like a 5-hour conversation. We need to make a workshop or something. So yes, Dr. Carly, What do you have to share about that and the pattern and being aware, or whatever showed up when Lasara was sharing?
Yeah, I resonate so much with what Lisara shared of this basis for life and creation being this external validation, and there just being this programming and this, in that case, a trauma response, which I resonate a lot with in my own life, that is just trying to keep up and trying to be validated, versus this potential that exists when we shift to the internal and this deeper fulfillment that cannot actually come from the external. And that is what's wild, because when you do achieve all those things, and it might feel good for a moment and you get those dopamine rushes, but then you'll just be in the same state of hungering for the next thing. And it's insatiable, because the shift, like the true fulfillment, can't come externally. And so, as part of my journey, when everything fell apart and my life completely changed after having been so hooked to seeking validation and getting so much of it as a straight A student and cum laude, and getting to speak at graduation and get funding and have papers and all of these things. And it wasn't until I made the shift where I said transformational leadership and bringing our heart's fulfillment, and the fact that the electromagnetic field of our heart is a few feet around us, and that of our brain is just a couple inches. And there was this moment when I was learning from Heart Math Institute about a decade ago that the heart sends more information to the brain than vice versa. And this moment that I said, oh my goodness, society is functioning in a way that we're getting just a tiny fraction of people's creative potential to make impact, to create solutions, when we're disconnected to our hearts, which the language of the heart is emotion and that of the brain is thoughts. And they're an amazing team. But if you're only focused on the thoughts rather than being present in your heart, and really your electromagnetic field, which can be an attractor, or it can be the opposite. It depends on your state of being. That's when we start to shift into this true power. And it can be a choice, which I recommend and I guide in these deeper processes with those who I work with. And sometimes nature and our own purpose can help us to make that choice through having a catastrophe, which is what I experienced in my life. I went through a total and utter burnout journey, which part of the looping things around is that Lisara and I had a significant client together in 2021. And I had done Lisara's Leadership Liberated training in 2020, and it was incredible. And the way she held space for very sensitive conversations in the wake of George Floyd, and in this moment that the world was changing, I said, let's do this together. And we teamed up for a year-long engagement with an organization that was $1 billion organization and working with the C-suite. And to me, it led to an utter burnout journey. And we performed, we did the thing. But I had so many, at that point, I was learning about my body. I was starting to be able to feel and be guided and realize all of these fear responses, and just being overly focused on this external validation. And it led me to a total and utter burnout. So after that client finished, I realized I could see it. You know, it's interesting as we build awareness, and I just want to normalize. Lisara always says, normalize the journey, hashtag, which I love. In this moment, as we're shifting how we operate, that you start to be able to see the patterns. And it's like a slow motion car wreck where you're seeing it and it's still happening, and you have an opportunity to shift your story around it and make it not so shameful or wrong or bad, but start to have more neutrality and just witness it. And so in that journey for me, my life crashed, and I had leaky gut, and I couldn't eat anything, and I was inflamed, and my mind couldn't think, and it led to just truly letting go of all of my performance and my high achievement drive that was running me. That was a program that my mind was taking over everything. And it was so wild when I actually went through bankruptcy, because I stopped being able to work and I was really honoring my body. And it was the scariest thing. And it felt like I lost everything. And it wasn't until I went through it that I experienced, when I had literally no money, and I realized that actually my value is infinite. It was this moment of realizing it was all this facade that I had given so much. I assigned so much value to it. And it truly was when I completely saw my life melt away as the old version. And the way I say it is I had to be flushed down the toilet to end up at the ocean. And there was an incredible surge of freedom. It was wild.
Yes.
And I had such a network of connection. I was supported through the whole entire thing. And it led to me making this shift from chasing to finding my validation internally and in my own practices and in my own rewriting the story. And that's when everything changed. And I got to be in the flow and build like a deeply fulfilling business and life from a different place.
Oh, that is just a very powerful, humbling story that you just shared, Dr. Carly. Thank you. I so appreciate both of your transparency, right? Sharing the real talk, as Yolanda was saying. Yes, Yolanda, so happy to have you here. And it brings back to our bodies. It's constantly communicating to us. It's giving us signs. It's giving us signals. Although our mind says, I don't have time for that. We just got to push harder. So that just makes me think about, the nervous system, and when do we know how it can actually hold the size of what we're creating. So our mind says, let's do this, let's go big or go home kind of thing. There's a lot of people that get into that trap. And so how would you, Lasara, give some insight to somebody who is thinking that, oh, I have this big opportunity, I need to do this, and I just know it's going to work out, but how do you know if their nervous system has the capacity, though, to hold that for them?
Oh, I'm excited about this, because what I'm hearing in this question is where the achievement, that desire to achieve, that ambition, and this is the part that I absolutely love, that I really don't hear anybody, most people saying, is the place where that they can actually live together, the aliveness and the achievement, the essence of truth and the ambition. And when I mentioned earlier about this survivalism that can drive success, there's also, and this is what I have found personally, there's also the place that when you move beyond survivalism, and this is absolutely work that I support people with, because it is really unconscious for a lot of people, right? If your nervous system is jarred and you're having, that can be obvious, but there are these little ways that we have been conditioned to override, right? So like not even recognizing what's happening in the body to even know that I'm getting a signal to maybe stop.
Exactly.
Right. So like understanding that, but also not making, I think it's really important to not, like, we love your ambition. we love that you have cultivated the ability to achieve. That has gotten you so far in your life. So many people have benefited. You have benefited from that experience. What we want to do now is understand, okay, where can more of me come into the picture? Where is my essence? And I think my version of the story Carly shared around um, being able to, yeah, have this experience where I could finally detach my worth from what
Mm,
I'm doing.
yes,
And it
the
was very
worthiness.
specifically, yeah, it was right before my father passed. I was guided to let go of everything, like everything. And I'm grateful for having, having things set up so that I could do that. Um, but as soon as I received the guidance, I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Like, I understand why I'm being called to this right now. And it is the place where this body of work that I support leaders with now has come from. The ability to trust, to know,
Mm,
to experience that place within where the truth about me, and perhaps a lot of people listening as well, is that ambition, like, yes, there's the desire for external validation. Yes, maybe there was any survivalism programming, but there's also part of our human nature is that we want to contribute. We
mhm.
want to see what we can create. We want to feel ourselves on purpose. And what can often be like, oh, that validate, I'm just trying to get validation. It's like, this world is interconnected. We see this in the ecosystems of nature. And this is what I love. And this is also a part of how I realized that, we are nature. We are nature.
Yes.
We see in the ecosystems is that when organisms operate by their original unique design, it creates symbiotic
Mm,
relationships with other organisms, and that is what enables the ecosystem to thrive. So,
yes.
what if we humans, I'll never forget the day I was watching this hummingbird. I moved to this beautiful area in Monterey, California, where I have this relationship now close enough to really, really understand nature. And so I was watching this hummingbird go to the flower, and I was like, thank goodness the flower is in its truth. It's not trying to run around, do things. The truth of the flower is that it's supposed to sit there, be beautiful, smell amazing, and open up. The hummingbird is designed, you've watched this hummingbird, right? These hummingbirds like bzz, 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 bzz. If they were a human, you'd be like, that's an anxious freaking person. But the hummingbird, that is how it moves. Right? So understanding what is actually your true essence. And because the hummingbird moves how it moves and it pollinates the flower and the flower stays put and opens its beautiful, sexy petals and it's like, yes, come get me, pollinator. Because they are both in their truth, we all get to eat the fruit of
Yes.
the
Oh, I love it. I so love your essence, Lasara, and how you bring forward just even acknowledging how the symbiosis that happens. We need to remember that, what we are, how we're relating to ourselves, how we are taking care of ourselves, loving ourselves, giving back to ourselves. That is the ripple effect, right? And how we enter the room, how we connect with others is, we're talking about the dynamics, right, of business or teams or even personal lives, right? If we are in our truth and have that awareness of even asking, how do I want to feel after this
Mm,
conversation?
yes.
How do I want to express myself in the most kind way to someone so they can receive it. Because with the nervous system, as Dr. Carly said, right, we have this energy field around us. And if we walk in and we are defensive,
Mm.
if we already think how the conversation is going to go down, just even saying it that way, right? Then people are going to be like, nope, I'm not leaning into that. I'm not receiving that. I don't want any part of that, right? So
Mm.
for leaders, for people who are leaning in and listening today, right? It's really about what your team is picking up before you even say a word, right? With that awareness. So, Dr. Carly, as you alluded to in the beginning, how do you help leaders to understand that dynamic? What's the first step you walk them into to recognize they might be walking around, they don't even understand that they're carrying all this, and
Yeah.
and how do you walk them into that first step on their path of awareness?
Yeah, I love how you shared like what someone's bringing to the room, and perhaps there's a whole fight already that's just in there, in their field.
They're
and
fighting with
like,
themselves.
okay.
They're fighting with themselves.
Themselves. Yes, they are.
Just have to laugh about it because it's true.
100%. And the wild part of it about the simplicity of making the shift from force to flow. And what I say when people say, well, what do you do? And my business is Enliven Leadership, and it's all about life. And the first step is composting. And when we realize that our work is not to figure everything out, and if you're in a place of tension and you're upset and you're stressed, what your job is to get back to empty. It's just to take the trash out, to do the composting. And that by doing that, there's a whole new possibility. And part of it is to realize that that's in your body and it's also in your mind. And stories are so sticky. Yes. And so the most powerful way to compost is to just feel. There's so many different ways, and going on a run, spending time in wild nature. Oh, the studies that show the difference between walking around in a neighborhood versus walking around in wild nature, there's a significant impact. And if you can, go to the waterfront, go to a trail, and set the intention. So the Enliven approach is really that clear intention and any questions. It's a great time to be clear on what the limiting, like whatever the thing that is clenched up is. And then step 2, like the power of the practice, is to get out of your mind and to get into your body and just allow yourself to make that shift. And I also teach breath work, and I have a whole set of practices to help do that. But as I said, it can be as simple as going out into nature and taking time to just yell, like in your car. It also works great. Just make sound and let go of the story. Like if you're telling a story over and over, this person did this, that, and the other, it's going to keep you. It's a source of ongoing aggression and upset. So if you can shift into your breath and your body and go into not knowing and just release, yes. Then step 3 is that take a moment to connect to realize your intention, realize like, what would that feel like in your body? Now you're in a place of emptiness, and then insight just shows up, and you didn't think your way to it.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. You
cannot.
As Einstein's famous quote that I love, no problem can be solved from the same state of consciousness that created it. And so everything, I'm just going to get dramatic. Everything changes. It is the code that cracks everything. When you realize that it is about your internal state And when you realize your state comes first, and if you prioritize that above all else, then the insight and the path forward and the synchronicity, you do your moment of practice, and then you go into the grocery store, and voila, the solution, the person that you needed to run into, that like nature
true.
opens up, and that
It does.
changes everything.
It does, right? And I so love that you brought that up, Carly, seriously, that you got real, right? Because people need to hear this. Our minds, it just pigeonholes us into a space, and it's those patterns, and we need to understand that we don't really know everything. We don't know anything about the other person. We really don't. It's all our schemas.
And
It's
sometimes we
all
don't even know about ourselves.
That's right. That's right, Lasara. So, Lasara, please, I know you're going to contribute your essence to this stone soup of collective consciousness we got going
Yeah.
on here.
I love this.
Which just Dr. Carly said. And yeah, let's go with it.
Yeah, I love this because this is where I particularly get excited. This place, and the reason I say I support people from inner division, again, a lot of people don't realize, but this is the division. This is the place where we kind of joked like, we're fighting ourselves. We actually are. And that is the conditioning. It's funny, in 2020, when I was educating on systemic oppression, I think people thought I was just talking about people of color. And, obviously that exists. And the systemic ways that we actually have been intentionally, this is by design, by the way, systems are created. You can ask an engineer, systems are created to achieve goals, right? So it is by design. The places where we have been disconnected from, Carly and I both love nature and spend a lot of time in nature. It's like, we've been disconnected from nature, disconnected from our power, disconnected from each other, right? The division within each other, disconnected from our imagination, disconnected from our sex. Yes, I said sex, because these are places of power. When people are fully in their power, they cannot be controlled. And so our ability as leaders is to recognize all of these places where the inner division exists. Where am I actually not connected? Because when you come back into those connections, whether it's your imagination and your creativity, whether it's going into nature, whether it's letting yourself actually feel eros, like that pleasure and joy. And one of the things that I love about aliveness and eros as well is that I'll take a step back. When you feel, I want to riff off of what Carly said, when you feel that place of needing to compost, and by the way, the earth loves to receive your emotion. Like,
yes.
Carly and I together have been out in nature, yelling and screaming and making sounds. Just the same way that a fruit, the rind of a fruit gets composted, like our emotions can be composted in this way. But when we experience these places of dissonance, where we recognize, okay, there's some tension here, there's something going on inside of me, because it has to be recognized first, right? There's a place where it's like, an emotion is a beautiful signpost of that, but so many people have been conditioned to override, right? To go, oh, no emotions here, can't do that, we're at work, that type of thing. So when you can just notice when there's tension in your mind, if you can notice when something's tightening in you, notice some type of contraction, that dissonance is so important and beautiful, because that is where the door cracks open.
Yes.
For truth to emerge, right? So if you can't perceive it, and then if you're like, I'm not connected like that, that's where being able to recognize where is that tension? That's the place of inner division. That's the place where you're going to be able to, when you let yourself move toward it, whether it's through emotional expression, whether it's through just acknowledging it is so powerful. Even if you don't do anything, you're sitting in a boardroom and you can't move, right? Just acknowledging it is a very critical first step.
Yes.
The other thing that really excited me that was spoken to is around this concept of needing to know, because for so many,
Mhm.
strong leadership looks like they have the answer. But where we are collectively heading, as I think everyone knows here, we are in unprecedented levels of uncertainty collectively. And so it is the leader, I see this as the future of leadership. The leaders of tomorrow are the ones who know how to be in the unknown,
Mhm.
literally understand and feel their power and their truth and guide without having the answer.
Yeah.
Having the answer is not the only way to lead. It is not the only way to be powerful. And I
Mm.
have a book that'll be coming out next year called The Leadership Artist, because I'm a musical artist. I sing, yes, I do. And artists have these unrecognized leadership skills. We know how to go into the unknown and materialize, create something from nothing. We understand
Mm.
how to be in a co-creational process where
Mhm.
we don't have the answer, but something is coming, right? As
Yes.
a songwriter, you go into songwriting sessions with other people, the ability to collaborate without the hierarchy and understand everyone's unique contributions and being in service to something greater, which in the case of a songwriting room is the song, that these are just a few examples of ways that musical artists specifically model the type of leadership, the evolution of leadership, I will say, that will create even more effective teams and outcomes as we continue into the future.
Mm. I so agree with you. Loved all you just unpacked so much there, Lasara, that people need to go back and re-listen to this conversation. There's so many golden nuggets here that both of you've shared. We're coming up to the top of the hour, and I so love hosting you. And I think we need to have a part two. Okay. We really do. And maybe that will be, a little bit in the spring before our retreat that we will host. So that would be wonderful and phenomenal. Um, I want to go back to just one last thing for everybody to hear today, or whenever you're listening to this, just being curious. What's running me right now? Just pausing and asking, does this feel like I'm inspired? Does it feel like I'm in the flow? Does it feel good? Does it feel like my chest is warm and I'm open and light and excited about this? Or does it feel pressure, having to do things, tick the boxes as we talked about today? Or am I doing it because performance, um, appeasing somebody else? I'm saying yes, but my body's really saying no. That is a key too. It's really important to understand the dynamics, the inner dynamics, how your body is like a tuning fork, since we're talking about music, Lasara,
Yes.
and a filter. I love the composting, Dr. Carly, that we need to really pay attention, because our body is always part of the conversation. And if we can create just enough space to breathe, sing, just have a space for us, then that's when we receive more of ourselves. So I love this conversation. Yes, Yolanda is cheering us on. I love you, Yolanda. Thank you. You are amazing light. She really is. And so before we go, Dr. Carly, can you share with others where to find you, and any uh, last comments or support that you want to give the audience today?
April, this has just been such a fun conversation. So I appreciate you, and for having Lisara and I together also is very sparking. And yes to part two. And so I invite folks to reach out on LinkedIn. It's a great place to follow, to be looped in with things that are upcoming, as well as my website, enlivenleadership.com. Enliven is spelled ENLIVEN, leadership.com. And the parting message that I would love to share that comes naturally here is that whenever there's a challenge, and there is so much uncertainty that all of us are navigating, that doing those practices to release and to become present and empty allows us to access the wisdom that is within, and that it is always going to be the most true, no matter what expert you're able to hear from, no matter, people that you check in your life and mentors and all of the things. I just can't emphasize enough that life force flows through you, that is intelligent, and that is always the best place to source the pathway forward. And it comes from that place of emptiness rather than from your mind. And so thank you again for letting me close on that note.
Of course. Yeah, reach out to Dr. Carly. She is amazing. Even just to have a conversation with her, both Lisara and Dr. Carly, these two lovely ladies is the reason why I wanted to have this show. So, Lisara, for those who are looking to connect with you, where do you want them to connect? And then what is a last parting supportive words you have for others?
Yes. So if you can see, there's my Facebook link at the bottom there. Facebook.com/Lisara, Lisara, Lisara, XO. And also on my LinkedIn, which is the same, Lisara. I don't believe there are others. So it should be easy to find. I always hear, oh, Lisara, that's a unique name. I'm like, good. So it's like Lisa and Ra, Lisara. And I love what you just shared, Carly, because yes, 100%. This is why Carly and I have worked together. We are deeply on the same page. Before I say that, thank you so much, April. April, what was that? Just last week, we had our first conversation. So it's really beautiful and with so much resonance, right? So it's really beautiful to be here. So thank you for hosting this. Thank you for hosting both of us. And the thing that I want to impart, in addition to what if Carly hadn't said what she said, I would have said that. Because it is so critical when we can uncondition what's been conditioned by accessing truth. And this is why I say #normalize the journey. It is a process, because that has been a lifetime of conditioning. And that lifetime of conditioning, while there are places that it was really supportive for, and I think it's really important to remember that, because there can be a place where you just want to no, this is wrong, and I can't believe I'm looking for validation. It's like, no, there's purpose in that. We humans are creatures of nature, and we are social beings. We want to be in those experiences that matters. But when we have these moments where we know something is off, even if we don't know what it is, just recognizing that place of sovereignty where we can make a choice. When we know this, you can say, okay, hey, I noticed this. And in this moment, I have a choice. I can do what I would normally do, or maybe I could make a different choice that would lead to a different experience. And maybe that choice is one that's more honoring of what's true for me in this moment. Maybe I won't hold my tongue, or maybe I'll take this outside to nature. Maybe, right? Maybe that that opening to make a different decision that honors your leadership is available in every single moment. And being able to find those micro moments of new choices or evolved choices is the place where you begin to have this relationship with yourself, where you can trust yourself to show up that way, where you can trust yourself to not override and operate and express from what's true.
Mhm. Well said, my friend. Oh, I don't want this conversation to end. We are just, I feel, scratching the surface of all of this, but I so appreciate you being here. And yes, we will definitely have a part two. And all those who showed up today or are watching later, thank you so much. Please reach out to Dr. Carly or Lasara. They are amazing, phenomenal women who want to support you. So that way you can find more of you, right? That truth and making those choices. That's all that it takes. And then we discover more about ourselves in the process. So thank you again, ladies. Please stay after the outro and we can chat a little bit. And for all of those who are watching now, be well. Bye-bye.